and good morning. It's a beautiful day. It's a Monday. I know, Monday. Where did the weekend go? Oh my gosh. It's one of those things, boy. I'm telling you, you don't pay attention and you just blink and it's gone. But it's all right. We're here to start a new week together, and that's an awesome thing. It's really so nice to know that we're all, walking this thing out, and we get to share at least some of it with each other. That's a good thing. I think that's really what he intended from the beginning, right? Oh my goodness. When did we lose the family part of being, Christians and just doing all of that kind of stuff, right? Oh my goodness. Well, we will I don't know, we're going to recover a lot of stuff over these next few years. I'm telling you, it's going to be an amazing transition. And you're part of it. You are absolutely part of the transition that the Lord is doing in so many of our lives, because everything he wanted from the beginning, he's going to get. Absolutely, he's going to get it. So it's good to be with you guys. Let's see who we have with us this morning. Oh, wow. Look at all of y'all just jumping in here. Elaine and Jane, Norma Jean, Linda. Hey, Dave, it's good to see you. It's been quite a while. Joanne, Ada, Ted, Marie. Marie, wow. Haven't seen you on in quite a while. Kathy, aloha. Javier, good to see you as well. Thank you guys. Appreciate having you along. It's good. So we are in John chapter 8, and just been kind of taking some bite-sized chunks out of this thing and taking our time kind of walking through this chapter. This is, one of the major times when Jesus really talks about his relationship with the Father, things that are very profound that we've got to understand, again, because, our study of the life of Christ it's really a study of what our life can look like, right? He said, you're going to do the things I did, and even greater things than these are you going to do. And he's in us, we're in him, and so we're in this awesome journey of learning what life looks like for those of us who understand that we're one with Christ. It's phenomenal. So that's how we're approaching all of this as we've been studying this year. And so we're in John chapter 8, as I say, and we're going to pick it up in verse 26. He says, I have many things to speak and to judge concerning you, but he who sent me is true, and the things which I heard from him, these I speak to the world. They did not realize that he had been speaking to them about the Father. Jesus therefore said, when you lift up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am he, and I do nothing on my own initiative, but I speak these things as the Father taught me. And he who sent me is with me. He has not left me alone, for I always do the things that are pleasing to him. And as he spoke these things, many came to believe in him. So, wow. And so here again, we hear him talking about the kind of relationship that he had with the Father while he was here on the earth. And man, there are some really powerful nuggets here in this particular passage that we need to grab hold of so that we can enjoy this same kind of relationship and this same kind of life, that he's demonstrating for us here. So, he says here in verse 26 that he has many things to speak and to judge. When I read this recently, all of a sudden I kind of had a different sense of how Jesus said this. You know, it's tough when we're reading these scriptures. We're not hearing his voice. We're not, in the sense that we don't know how he actually spoke these things, right? What were the inflections and the emphasis that he was putting on certain words? So I all of a sudden I read this in a different way, and I want to share that with you this morning. Here's what I think he was saying in terms of the emphasis. I have many things to speak and judge concerning you, but he who sent me is true, and the things which I heard from him, these I speak to the world. Now, see, that's a different way of hearing what he said. Because this is where I think he wants us to focus right now. Jesus, had many different ideas, many different thoughts concerning what he saw going on around him. Remember, he's walking with the Lord in this amazing relationship of closeness and intimacy that nobody else had around him. So he's looking at people living lives that are so far beneath what the Father wants for every person. And so Jesus, I think, is saying here that, I personally, there are many, many things that I could be speaking and talking about concerning you all, especially the people who have been criticizing him and persecuting him and saying all these, crazy things about him. He's basically admitting, I think, that there's a lot I could say about you all that would be, in judgment of how you are living your lives. And in other occasions, he's done that, right? He called the Pharisees whitewashed tombs, you brood of vipers. I mean, there are plenty of times when he didn't pull any punches with these guys. But here, he's taking a different approach. He's saying, yeah, I got stuff I could be saying about you and about, what you've been saying and doing. But he who sent me, the Father is true, right? Meaning what? That whatever the Father chooses to emphasize or speak about, that's all that matters. That's really what he's saying, right? And the things which I heard from him, well, these I speak to the world. And so what I'm taking from this is that Jesus had some opinions about things that he just didn't talk about. He knew when to not give his opinion about something. And I think that's huge. I'm sorry. I just think that this is huge. Because, and we've talked about this on many different occasions in this, on this show, the tendency that we as Christians have to give our opinion about something at the drop of a hat. Okay. Whew. I mean, I don't see very often that it's helpful. I'm sorry, that's my opinion. Since I got the microphone, I'm going to share what I believe, that I see. And you guys, come on, this is true as well. Anytime something gets posted on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, right? Oh my gosh, that you're going to have all kinds of people jumping in here with their opinions. And Christians are no different, right? Oh my goodness. The kinds of things that are written by Christians concerning things are, here's the thing. When you think about wanting to write an opinion about something, is it really something that Jesus would say? Can you hear him saying it? You know, I mean, I think that's got to be the way we approach all of this. You know, can I really hear him saying this? You know, would Jesus write that, you know, as a comment on a Facebook post or a Twitter or some other thing, right? You want to really get blown away. Charisma Magazine, you know, they put out all this stuff online, right? They put up articles and whatnot all the time. You want to flip out, read the comments about these articles. I was like, wait, what? You know, I don't do that anymore because I'm not getting myself stirred up over people's stupidity. I'm sorry, just not going there. So, you know, Jesus, if of anybody, right, you would think Jesus had the right to give his opinion about stuff. I mean, come on, right? If anybody has that right, it ought to be him. But he didn't. He didn't give his opinion concerning these people. What did he say? He said, the things which I heard from him, these I speak to the world. He's saying, I'm not going to give you my opinion about something. I'm going to tell you what the Father's saying about it. Because honestly, that's really all that matters, right? The only truth is the truth that the Father speaks. And so if I have an opinion and my opinion isn't in line with what he's saying, I should really be concerned about that. But here's the thing. Are we even checking whether our opinion is in line with what he says? And based on the stuff that I see, you know, that I read online, there's a lot of Christians out there that are just spewing out whatever comes to mind. You know, I mean, you really see how what Jesus said about out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. I mean, what's inside is like, whoa, that's what's in you. That's amazing, right? So Jesus is saying here that he's only saying things that he hears the Father saying. You know, verse 28 says, I do nothing on my own initiative, but I speak these things as the Father taught me. So his primary approach is simply, I'm just going to tell you what Father has spoken to me, what he's told me. And I think that's a really safe approach. I don't know about you. You know, I really like this idea, right? And he goes on to say that, you know, I always do the things that are pleasing to him. That's what? Why? Because he made up his mind that, you know what? Yeah, I can have opinions about stuff and think certain things about people and about their situation, but what is that going to do, really? If what I'm thinking, what I believe about this situation doesn't line up with what the Father's saying, well, what good is it? You know, yeah, I can have an opinion. You know, we can all have opinions. Let me just set that straight, okay? God gave us this capacity to think, to reason, you know, to look at things, to make judgments about things. That's part of our human capacity. So there's nothing intrinsically wrong with us having an opinion. What I think we're looking at here is, well, what are we basing our opinions on? And I think that's something that is very critical for us to look at and make some choices about. Because again, if we're trying to really represent well the heart of the Father, the true nature of the Father, the true nature of Christ and the kingdom of God, right? All of these things, we've got to be careful. We have to look at what are we actually saying? What our opinions are actually communicating to people. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let me also mention today that our broadcast is brought to you once again by Jesus Book and Gift. My good buddy Joe Catalano, Route 1 South in Island, Jesus Book and Gift. You can find just about anything that you might need for your growth as a believer there. They've got so many books and lots of music. They got a sale going on right now for music and fiction. You've got supplies for your church, for Sunday school. You can also order online, JesusBookandGift.com. So head over there at some point. Let them know that you heard about Jesus Book and Gift right here on Breakfast with Jesus. I appreciate that so much. So, what about this idea of opinions? Well, none other than the Apostle Paul, he was someone who had some opinions and was willing to share those. But I think we need to look at how he did it so that we can learn, get some wisdom about what we can do, what we probably should do when it comes to this whole issue of opinions. So we're going to flip back over into 1 Corinthians chapter 7. And, Corinth was an interesting place. There was a lot of stuff going on that, because of the culture of that region, a lot of paganism, a lot of worship of these false gods and deities and whatnot. And it was, pretty hedonistic kind of place. People just, did whatever they want. So the Christians that were coming out of that culture had a lot of questions. They were struggling to get this mindset, to renew their minds and really start to live as true sons and daughters of God. So Paul wrote two letters actually to them to try to help them with this process of growth, right? And in chapter 7, he starts to deal with marriage and marriage relationships and all of that, right? And here we see him exercising his right, his ability to give an opinion about certain things, which I think is fascinating, right? So he starts out talking about how, because of immorality, it's better that people get married, and that way, that helps to avoid, those kinds of temptations. And so he says, husbands and wives, do your duty. Okay. But, he says this, he says, I say this by way of concession, not of command. Well, what does that mean? He said, well, I would that you had a different approach to life, but I understand, that this is something that is important to do. And so he says, yep, okay, right? He says, I wish everybody could, be like me, where I don't have a wife, I'm single, but everybody has their own gift. And so what is he saying here? He's saying, I have an opinion about this, but I'm not going to force my opinion on you concerning whether you should get married or not, right? Then he goes on down to say, concerning people who get saved and their spouse is not saved, right? And so he says, to the married, this is verse 10, he says, to the married I give instructions, not I, but the Lord, that the wife should not leave her husband. So again, if you're saved, your husband's not, he's saying, according to the Lord, you shouldn't leave your spouse, right? And then he said, but if she does leave, she has to stay unmarried or else be reconciled to her husband. And the husband should not send his wife away. In other words, if he's saved and she's not, he should not send her away, which is another word for divorce, right? Verse 13, a woman who has an unbelieving husband and he consents to live with her, let her not send her husband away, for the unbelieving husband is sanctified. Well, let me. I skipped over the verse I wanted to touch on. There's just a lot here, right? In verse 12, he says, "But to the rest I say, not the Lord, that if any brother has a wife who is an unbeliever and she consents to live with him, let him not send her away. So here's Paul. He's giving an opinion. What? Yeah. He's saying, I'm not getting this as a command from the Lord. However, based on what I know, what I've learned, my experience in the Lord, I'm saying that I think this is wisdom. Here's my opinion, right? But what I like about it is that he's clear. This is what I believe is the right thing. I don't have chapter and verse from the Lord on this, right? But I'm telling you what I really believe is the right thing to do. He clarifies it, that this is my opinion. And I think that's important, that we should, be willing to say to people, well, here's what I understand. Here's what I believe about that. I can't tell you that this is exactly what God is saying, but to the best of my ability, here's what I can share with you, right? And he does this also, a little bit further down. Let me just pull these verses up so I don't miss any of them, right? Because the word that he uses here, of opinion, is that it's a word that means I have an idea, I have a judgment, I have this thing, I have a mind about something, right? And so in verse 25, he says, concerning virgins, I have no command of the Lord, but I give an opinion, as one who by the mercy of the Lord is trustworthy. So now he's again saying, here's what I think is the right thing to do, right? If you trust me as a man of God, as someone that the Lord has used in your life to help you to grow and to encounter him in some way, that's what Paul is saying here, then I'm going to give you my opinion about this. And he basically says, it's okay to get married, right? And then further down in verse 40, he says, despite all of this, it's my opinion that a woman will be happier if she stays as she is, right? So again, what is he talking about? He's talking about marriage. He's talking about what do you do if your husband dies? Should you remarry? And again, here he's giving his opinions based on what he's learned, but he identifies it. He identifies what he has learned and is giving wisdom based on that. But he clearly says, this is my opinion. So I would like to propose that you and I take on this same kind of an approach as well. Again, I'm not suggesting that we should never have an opinion and share it. There's nothing wrong with having an opinion and sharing it. It's how we do it. It's how we present something. Do we present it as if it is the word of the Lord when really it's not? It's just my opinion. I think a lot of the problem that we get into with people, in these really nasty back and forth is when we simply give out an opinion or a thought as if that's the final word. What? Unless you got chapter and verse, and even then it's like, are you sure you're sharing it the way the Lord meant it? Or you taking this scripture and just kind of twisting it for your own purpose to buttress your own opinion about something. So if Jesus, and again, what are we doing here? We're looking at life through his eyes, because that's the life that he has for each one of us, right? So if he was not going to share his opinions because it wouldn't be helpful, how many of my opinions have actually put distance between me and another person, have put a wall between me and another person? That's a thought-provoking question, because I don't want to do that. I don't want my opinion to create such dissension and strife between me and another person that I'm no longer able to connect with them and be in their life or part of the relationship that maybe God wants me there to bless them in some way. But because I was just too free with my opinions about stuff, you know, I'm no longer able to do that. And I think that's what Jesus was doing here. He was saying, I could blast you all, you know, with the things that you just don't understand, and you're so wrong, you're deceived, blah, blah, blah. And again, he did that on occasions in the past, but this wasn't one of them. He knew when his opinion didn't matter because he wanted to just simply speak what the Father was saying. So I think it's something that really is worth us looking at and dialoguing with the Lord about and saying, yeah, maybe my opinions are getting in the way of me being able to help people and be there, you know, in somebody's life, because I just needed to tell them what I thought. So, I don't know. Hope it's helpful. You know, I'm not certainly sharing this, you know, as the final word on it. Just wanted to share with you what hit me as I was, you know, reading this again and just saying, wow, it really seems like you held back on giving your opinions about these people, and you just stuck with what you heard the Father saying. I think that's pretty cool. Awesome. All right. Thank you for hanging out with me this morning. Let's see. Let's see who we got here. Oktoberfest. All right, Ted, get out there and bring the real spirit of the Lord, not the spirit of the beer. Let's see. We got Joanne and Linda. Shalom, Dee. Good morning, Maria. Donna. Hey, Connie, how are you? Good to see you. Let's see. Ralph and Rosa. Another Linda. Good to have you as well. Andrew, good to see you. Hey, John, good morning. Well, all right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate so much having you along for the ride this morning. And if you have any questions or would like to chat with me about what I'm sharing, send me a Facebook message. Send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. And again, I thank each one of you that is sharing this with your friends. It's so nice seeing new folks jump in and join us each morning. So have an awesome day. I hope you get a chance to just love on somebody real good and let them experience this amazing Papa that we have, and just see him wreck them in a good way. Alrighty, we'll see you tomorrow, 8:30 Eastern. All right, thanks so much.